I will only show a few slides because of the time, so I'll just skip all these to get into and tell you a little bit. We studied atherosclerosis at autopsy and made a comprehensive study in 100 autopsies to see if it was the same disease we saw in different vascular territory. And we examined the carotid arteries, we examined the coronary arteries, and we examined the femoral arteries. And as said, there was 100 autopsy, and we selected atherosclerosis susceptible parts of these arteries, the proximal part of the left anterior, right coronary, the carotid, and the superficial femoral arteries. And it was a section we took out, 48 sections from 100 autopsies. And we used the classification from the American Heart. I will not go through it. Just 1, 2 is early lesion, 3 intermediate lesion, and more than 4 is plaque. And in fact, about this disease, we know it's a systemic disease. We know it's a generalized disease, and it's a multifocal disease. But in fact, it's not a diffuse disease. And many people use this term interchangeable: diffuse, systemic, generalized. But in fact, it's not diffused. It's plaque. It's multifocal.
Is it a systemic disease or not?
It's a systemic disease.
It's not
diffused. It's not diffused.
Focal manifestation.
It's
multifocal manifestation.
Yes, it's focal and focal manifestation. Okay. So it's multifocal disease. And here we found, by measuring the plaque burden in this different vascular territory, there was a close correlation between plaque burden in the 2 coronary arteries, in the 2 carotid arteries, in the 2 femoral arteries, right and left. But also a close correlation between plaque burden in the coronary carotid, in the coronary femoral, in the carotid and femoral arteries. So the amount of disease correlated closely in different vascular territory. And here we have the
Sorry, could you go back to this? That's fascinating. So the carotid and femoral and carotid and coronary have almost the same correlation as LAD and RCA?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but it's the data.
That's fascinating.
So that's not IMT, right? That's plaque.
That's
I come back to that. It's plaque.
Right.
It's plaque.
Right.
It's type 4 or higher, according to the American Heart Association. So it's what we have here. It's plaque. How it was distributed in the different vascular territory. White is normal, blue or what it is normal, and the green, it's plaque. And we can see there's more plaque in the coronary than in the carotid, and least plaque in the femoral artery. And we know that. So in fact, we have plaque here in the coronary, and we have not so much plaque in the femoral artery. We published that, and we focused, in fact, on that atherosclerosis develops slower in the superficial femoral artery than in the coronary artery. So if you have plaque in the femoral artery, you will always have plaque in the coronary. So plaque in the femoral artery is a very sensitive, very specific marker of coronary artery disease, but not very sensitive. And it's the reason it's useful in older people, but not in younger people. If you have a low ABI, you do have plaque in your coronary artery. So it's the target for using this difference imaging tool. So as in ABI, it's useful, of course, in older people, not younger people. Then we classify the type of plaque in these lesions, and we can see the plaque in the coronary and carotid. Many of these plaque contains necrotic core. And we know it's what characterized high-risk plaque. And there was not so many plaque in the femoral artery with necrotic core. They were more fibrotic. So, and if you go to the carotid, and I will come back to that because I think it's very important to understand what we see by imaging, there's a lot of foam cells in the carotid arteries. Foam cells, macrophages that has taken up lipid. So we examined the carotid in the different segments, the common carotid artery, the carotid bifurcation, the bulk, and the internal carotid artery, to see how the disease differed along the carotid artery. And we found here that in the common carotid artery, where we measure internal medial thickness, most of them contain the lesion we see here. Either it is a normal artery or it's foam cells. There's very little plaque in the common carotid artery where we measure common carotid artery internal medial thickness. Going to the carotid bifurcation and the bulk, we have a lot of plaque, and many of these plaque contain necrotic core. And going into the internal carotid artery, there's not so much disease. And here we have 2 carotid arteries open longitudinally, and we have the bifurcation up here. It's plaque. It's the lesion causing stroke. And we have the common carotid artery here. It's where we measure intimal medial thickness. There is no plaque, or very little plaque. But there is diseased vessel wall. I think it's another disease. We can also see here atherosclerosis is a focal disease. It's a lesion at the outer wall of the carotid bifurcation, and when you come down to the common carotid artery, there is not much focal disease, there is a diffuse disease. But I don't think it's the same disease. It shares some common feature with atherosclerosis, but I don't think it's the same disease. Here, in fact, we have the internal carotid artery, and it looks very much what you see in the common carotid artery. And look at it, and I think we can understand many things what we are doing by measuring by carotid ultrasound, and in fact also with fluid deoxyglucose by PET.